Hi, I'm Andrew Meltzoff from the University of Washington. I co-direct the Institute for Learning and Brain Sciences. At our institute, we study the brain development of children. We also study the advantages of bilingual and bicultural upbringing, and we study moral development in children. We just completed several scientific studies on the origins of moral development and cooperation. We wanted to show how family upbringing shaped a young child's commitment to sharing, caring, and helping others. To do this, we invited 18-month-olds into our laboratory and gave them a special task in which they could either help or not help an adult. What we found was fascinating. We found that children with Hispanic parents and also those with Asian parents did better on this task than other children. This was surprising because although you might think that Hispanic family values for cooperation have influenced first grade kids, you might not know that this has already begun to influence infants, even those too young to say their first sentences. The news of this scientific finding that Hispanic babies had superior helping and sharing skills was rapidly picked up in the scientific community and the popular press. Everyone wanted to know how infants this young, before formal instruction, could have caught the values of their parents. Now, the person who did this research, the scientist who actually sat nose to nose with the babies, is Dr. Rodolfo Barragan. He himself is of Hispanic heritage. He received his PhD from Stanford and came to my laboratory at the University of Washington to work specifically with young children. I would like him to explain his excitement about this work for himself. So let me introduce Dr. Rodolfo Cortez Barragan to give you a 5-minute description of the work.
Hello, my name is Rodolfo Cortez Barragan from the University of Washington. I am a postdoctoral fellow working with Professor Meltzoff, whom you've just heard from. I'd like to talk with you a bit more about the details of our research with young children, in which we uncovered hidden strengths in young Hispanic children. Strengths that can help us to understand the modern Hispanic American family, and which suggest what everyone can learn from Hispanic parenting. In our study, we recruited about 200 19-month-old infants to come into our university developmental psychology laboratory. Then the infants were shown valuable items. What do we mean by this? What could a 19-month-old possibly value? In our initial study, we showed the infants fruit. For example, delicious bananas and also other sweet fruit like blueberries. What we did next was to do one of two things. Either we accidentally dropped these valuable items and reached out for them as if wanting them back, or acted like we didn't care about the fallen fruit and had no desire for it. The study was carefully designed so that the delicious fruit landed right in front of the infant. This is a really important challenge for a 19-month-old. Will they help the person to retrieve the valuable items or not? We found not only that infants pick up these valuable items, edible items, and hand them to us, but in a second study, we also found that they did that same handing off right before their usual snack time. Even though they were clearly hungry, they still chose to help the other person and to return the fruit to them. In follow-up studies, we wondered, do infants even give this stranger their own favorite toy? Indeed, we collaborated with parents to show the infants their most precious items brought from home. And we found that infants continued to give us these items, which belonged to them, despite the fact that they were reaching for these items just moments before, as if wanting to possess them. One of the most striking findings from these studies is that there was a particular group of infants who helped the most. Infants from Hispanic American families, as well as those from Asian families. These infants helped twice as much. We were very intrigued by these findings. Although work in social and cultural psychology had suggested that Hispanics basically exude niceness, we were surprised to see this in such young children. Already by 19 months, Hispanic children seemed to be more generous than children of other backgrounds. How could this possibly happen? And what could it teach parents, teachers, and leaders? It turns out that Hispanic families emphasize certain values that other cultures emphasize to a lesser extent. For example, the value of ser acomedido, to be attentive to others' needs and to help without being asked, as well as the value of ser simpático, to be agreeable and hospitable. These values can even be seen in the connotation of words. Think of the word education. In English, when we say someone has a good education, what we mean is that they have done well in school. But in Spanish, to say someone has educación means that you are qualifying them as having a good moral education, a moral foundation. That is, in the Spanish language, the heart of education is morality, learning to become a good person. Put another way, here is what a Hispanic mother whose child was in our study and gave away her favorite teddy bear said when the study was covered by Good Morning America.
Maya Rosich took part in the study, handing over her treasured panda bear when the researcher dropped it.
Aquí, lo pongo aquí.
Maya's mom says fostering generosity in her daughter is part of their heritage.
In Hispanic culture, there is a lot of pressure to share. The idea is that you're always kind of being as welcoming as you can.
So this means that with the help of their family, these values are already becoming expressed before the child can form complete sentences. This shows hidden strengths in Hispanic parenting and suggests ways that we can all learn from this underrepresented group. More generally, specific aspects of Hispanic parenting may help Hispanic children to become engaged in a positive way with others and to create and deliver value to the world more broadly. This is a very promising avenue for future research with considerable implications for society and policy. Thank you all for your attention.
Hi, I want to close by saying two short messages, one scientific and the other more practical. The scientific message is this: our babies are watching and listening to us, whether we know it or not. They are learning all the time. And they not only learn languages such as Spanish and English, and mental skills such as how to solve puzzles, stack blocks, and how to use the remote control. They are also learning how to cooperate with others, how to care, how to share. They are learning these lifelong social skills in part by watching us and how we treat other people. The more practical message is this: Dr. Barragan and I are now working on new educational programs to try to capture the secret sauce of Hispanic family values to see if we can assist other children from other backgrounds to acquire the sense of generosity, sharing, and caring that Hispanic kids show by 18 months of age. Dr. Barragan and I think that when this story gets out, that designers of preschools around the country are going to want to be more respectful and inclusive of Hispanic culture. After all, a universal hope of most parents, whether Black, white, or brown, is that their children grow up to be caring and sharing. It turns out that one of the best ways of achieving this is to adopt the socialization practices that are already used by Hispanic parents and grandparents. We can't wait to disseminate the news that having Hispanic kids in classrooms and Hispanic values in the air will help all our children. Perhaps one small way that we can reduce prejudice is to show non-Hispanic parents that they can help their own kids become more generous and caring if they expose them to Hispanic values. All of us in American society and around the world really can learn from Hispanic culture that education starts in the home with moral values, and that our children at first learn from watching us. It's our privilege and responsibility to teach our children. It is our obligation to improve civilization one child at a time. Our message is that this teaching and learning does not start in first grade. It starts by how we raise our little infants. To conclude, we are all human and we can learn from each other. Nothing could be more important for the future of human civilization than to teach our youngest children to be sharing, caring, empathetic, and cooperative with others. This provides the basic moral foundation of civilization, and without moral values like those in Hispanic culture, civilization simply begins to break down. So our future truly does start with the children. Thank you very much for your kind attention.